Hey, and welcome back to Watch Me with Emily Galindo. I am your host. We are here proving them wrong, one success story at a time. And I am talking to all of the dreamers of the world, specifically the entrepreneurs, the wannabe entrepreneurs, the business owners, the people who know that are walking through life, and wherever you are, whether it's going to work, raising your kids, doing whatever it is, mundane thing that you think is where you are stuck in the world. We are here chatting with you to make sure that you understand that you are not stuck there. We are here helping you figure out a way to say, you know what, watch me. I'm going to do it. And so I bring on special guests that are in my life, experts in their field, to be able to tell you their own personal stories of where they were, where they thought they were stuck and got out of that and are now chasing the dreams of their lives. So welcome. And I'd love to introduce you to my very good friend and colleague, Michael Parker.
What up? What up?
Hi, Michael. Just for the record, you have to say his full name. It's Michael Parker. We don't ever call you Mike. We don't ever call you Michael, or at least I don't.
Michael Wayne Parker Jr.
That's too much, I think. I like Michael Parker, it just rolls off. But in my phone, you're Michael Mick Parker.
That's correct. That is because I might be Irish, maybe.
I believe you. You know what? I was in Ireland not too long ago and went to the Irish Museum, and everybody, like one in 700 people have Irish roots. So I bet you're one of them, because during the famine, all the Irish people left and spread all of our amazing genes everywhere.
I'm not sure. I've been to some Irish bars, though.
So therefore, you are qualified.
Yes.
Well, welcome to my podcast. Thanks for being my first guest.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Okay, very good. And so we were having coffee the other day, and we were talking about some of your story, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be a great interview or a great conversation on my podcast. So thanks for coming.
Yes, I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready to, just open up and, lay it all out.
Expose your soul to the world.
Yeah.
I can see how comfortable you are. I can see the Marine just like blocking it all out.
No, we're here. Open kimono.
There you go. Perfect. Speaking of Marines, so we were talking before we started recording about this stuff that I was reading about the grit gene.
Yes.
And I find it fascinating. And you had never heard of this?
No, definitely not. Oblivious to the grit gene.
The grit gene. So they're doing new research that for you and I, we were talking like this whole watch me thing, like the just like picking yourself up and grinding it out and getting the done, apparently is not the way everybody in the world views the world.
Yeah, clearly not everybody operates like that.
Right, which is now we're finding is scientifically or at least they're working to prove it, is that there's actually a genetic component to the grit gene that people like you and I who are like, yeah, just do it.
Is it some kind of mutation or?
I don't know. I feel sometimes like a mutant and like I'm looking at the world differently than everybody else does, but which is somewhat true, but I don't, I liked your question though. You said, can we get transplants? Again, are there people that, I think though, if you are a person that wants to be more like that, somewhere in there you have the grit gene, right?
Yeah, maybe you just got to tap into it maybe.
Right, and so that's what I'm hoping we can do today and every time we have an episode is tap into that, because I think that it's in there. If you're even questioning, where do I find grit, or how do I get it, or how do I be more like that person? It's just a matter of you already have that, and we just got to tap into it.
Yep, tap in, like the song says.
Okay. And when I talk about grit or watch me, and I was talking to you about coming on here, whatever, you had meant, what is the first story in your life that you can think of that you're like, oh, I know exactly what moment that was in my life?
Man, you took me straight to high school with that. So I was like, I was a junior then, and I had this English teacher, and I had a few of the fellow athletes in the class, and we were clowning around a little bit, and she made this comment to me that just it touched my soul, like it struck a chord. Like she said to me, she told one of the other football players, "Don't be like him," right? Basically saying that I was just a miscreant. I'm just here to misbehave and not go with the program in her English class. But I wasn't the only one that was clowning around, but that comment was directed specifically at me, and it hit me pretty hard. But I was like, all right, you know what? I told her I was gonna, in my mind, I said, you know what? I'm not listening to you anymore, right? I'm just going to do my own thing. Whether I do the work in your class or not, you're not going to label me, right? But I had a special day with her. We're in the computer lab. And one of the things that I didn't say already is like, one of my best friends was in this class, and all she did was sleep in the class. And she allowed her to sleep in the class because she had an A. She had the highest grade in the class. She had like a 99. So she could do no wrong in the class, but because I cracked a joke one day, I'm a scum of the earth. But anyway, fast forward, we're in the computer lab one day, and what the teacher didn't know is that I was already in college in other courses. I was taking some computer courses at the time because that was the thing. We were on the brink of, the .com boom, right?
Right.
Yeah, that shows my age.
Right.
So anyway, the same athlete who I was cracking jokes with that day was having a problem with his computer. Mm-hmm. And I overheard the teacher trying to fix it. And then my best friend, the genius, comes over. She couldn't fix it. And aha, watch me. I come over there and I knock that thing out, and I just I didn't even look at her. I just walked away. So that's like the first thing that struck a chord when I think of watch me.
Right.
That moment as a 16-year-old.
The genesis moment in your life that you could prove other people wrong.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So then fast forward, you are what do we say, a non-active Marine? Because you're always a Marine. So how do we say that?
So we're saying Michael is a retired Marine.
Retired. Okay.
That is correct.
Retired Marine. Mm-hmm. So there has to be, I can imagine, a moment in that entire, let's call it, onboarding experience.
Onboard. That's a nice way to put it.
That you had a similar gut reaction.
Yeah, there was a few moments there. So yeah, here's one. Here's a good one. I got in some trouble, mm-hmm. right? Some off-base trouble. We won't go into detail, but I got in some trouble, and it had put me in a position where I was getting some unfavorable treatment at work, right? And I just kept my head down, and I kept doing the things I was supposed to do, even though I was receiving this kind of unfavorable treatment. And what it was really boiling down to is that my problems off base hadn't been adjudicated off base yet. And then I was still subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the military law, right? And so all this time while they're trying to figure out what's going on with this kid, me, I just kept doing the things, and eventually I was up for a meritorious promotion, so that's an accelerated promotion. And of course, the convening authority said, "Oh, hell no, we're not doing that. That kid's a troublemaker," But I kept my head down and doing the things I was supposed to do. And surely enough, they came down to they had a decision to make. Not only was I up for this accelerated promotion, but I also had the proper credentials where we had a scoring system to get our promotion, and there it was. They had a decision to make. Either we're going to punish this kid for something we don't know we're punishing him for, or we're going to give him one of these promotions because he's earned it. He's busted his ass, and he's got here.
Yeah. And what'd they do?
They promoted me.
Okay, so, there you go.
The actions just kind of spoke for itself. They seen the core of the person who I was, and then they also seen the work ethic. It was a tireless work ethic. I gave everything I had every single day, just to show them that I wasn't the person who they thought I was. And then after the whole situation was over with, off-base situation was dropped, as well as the thing on base as well with the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So I ended up getting that promotion. So it was a blessing. Took a little while, but blessing.
Doing the right thing.
That's right.
Is typically gets paid.
Absolutely.
Very good. Talk to me about joining the Marine Corps. So was that like that was the destiny, that was the goal from the jump, or was that a decision that for some people might be the last option on the block kind of situation?
So was it something that I was planning to do? Hell no. No. It came down to I had been making some mistakes, the typical.
I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah,
Michael Parker.
Yeah. I was making
with no judgment. I'm not judging you. I just recorded my own personal. There's a theme there too, but okay. Making some bad choices.
the friendships I thought were friendships and they really weren't.
Don't you love those?
Yes. Yeah, I was teaching my kids about that the other day. So there I was, I was thinking about going to college, and I had an adult moment. I was like, I don't have the discipline to go to college. The grades are there, but I don't have the discipline.
Wow, that's very self-reflective at that
Oh,
age.
yeah. The streets had taught me something.
Right.
So at that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this military thing. I was in the grocery store working one day. Some young lady came up in a uniform, and she started talking to me, and I was like, man, she's pretty. But, I just listened to what she was talking about. And she was like, do you want me to have my recruiter call you? I was like, sure, We scheduled the appointment, and unfortunately, I got called in to work on the day I was supposed to have my appointment, but I called and I rescheduled with him. And the funny thing is that the recruiter said, are you sure, man? Or are you just BSing me? Are you going to actually come in? I was like, I called you, didn't I?
Right.
Right? And if anybody knows anything about recruiting for the military in Texas, people just walk in. They don't really have to do a whole lot. I'm not saying that they don't work, so don't get that twisted. I'm just saying that, we have a lot of patriots here,
Right.
And the fact that, I called him back, he was already in shock. So went in, and he put his little tabs on the table to see what are the things that I wanted to get from joining the military. First one was discipline. That was it. That's all I knew that I needed to be successful in life was that.
Wow.
Physical fitness was another thing that I wanted from it.
Sure.
But that was like the key was discipline.
I wish I would have learned. I'm just now learning at my age that discipline is the key to freedom. I have gone my entire life thinking that like freedom is what drives me and stuff, right? Like I love being in outside sales because my flexibility of my schedule and can't be chained to a desk and all of those types of things. Creative innovation. Unfortunately, achieving your goals without discipline is impossible.
Well, I mean, that was something that was delivered to me in a subconscious format when I played football.
Right.
Our coach said that we were super talented, but we didn't have enough discipline. So he brought the Marines over to help us form some discipline. And so that was the subconscious plant there. And then from that point on, I could see the drastic changes, for us on the field. And I think that's why when I went to the recruiter, I was just like, discipline.
Right. So you served, I will say it the way, because I am also, I'm a dependent, but a retired dependent. And I will say you served your time in the Marine Corps.
Absolutely.
Is that what we call it? Because that's like the jail language. Is that actually what we say?
Yeah, you honorably served,
Okay, served your time.
It does sound like a sentence, though, when you say that. Ooh, yeah.
I mean, anyways.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then you got out, and what have you done? So did you have some sort of like, after the Marine Corps going, okay, what now? Like, was there any kind of identity type of like, if I'm not a Marine, like, you're always a Marine, I know that, but like not serving, so now what are we doing, an identity shift type of thing, or did you already know straight out what you were up to?
Yeah, there was definitely identity shift. So
Yep.
let me talk about that for a second.
Okay.
The day I left, I cried like a baby.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I drove home and I was crying for a couple hours because that's just not how I wanted things to end for me. I ended up getting injured. That was ultimately the reason why I got out. And so I was like, the way I wanted to end, I wanted to end it with a parade, to celebrate my service, right? Like most retirees would get. So, coming home, it was just me trying to figure out, well, what's next in life? Because I used to be a superhero, right? I used to be like a Marvel superhero, bad dude that can do almost anything, right? Probably anything if I put my mind to it. And now I'm somebody who's injured, and I got to figure out what's next for me in life. All it took was one job fair, I tell you that much.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So coming home, literally the week after I got home, I was still on leave, still getting my retirement pay and such. I go to this job fair, and I applied for a few jobs online already, things I know that I'd qualified for, and I get there. It's one of these special job fairs for veterans, and you go and you meet these people. They're from HR. They say they can help you, and really all they do is tell you, hey, these are the jobs that you should apply for with your skill set. Well, no shit. right?
Thanks for your service. Right.
So yeah, that's what I came here for. I mean,
right. You were maybe looking for maybe like a veterans connection, like we want to specifically hire veterans, so you're already in the queue to be processed, sort of situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did find one of those in the needle in the haystack, if you will, but as I observed more of the more entrepreneurial type roles that were there, I seen a few financial advisors, some real estate agents and brokers, and I was like, that might be a little bit more my speed, because I can every day's not the same. It's not like a mundane situation where I'm just going in, clocking out, sitting at my desk type situation, and that's what being a Marine's like. Every day's different. So I was like, yeah, I need that in my life,
So which avenue did you pick?
So I actually went to a real estate brokerage first.
Okay.
Because
from one of those places at the job fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did have a real estate license when I was in North Carolina while I was still in the Marine Corps. And then I started to observe the fees that were involved, and I was like, I don't know, man. And there's like 40,000 realtors in Houston, and I don't know what that looks like. And I was like, well, and there's nothing residual about the income, right? Unless
you eat what you kill every transaction, right?
Right, unless you have a good referral pipeline, right? And so then I looked at the financial advisory role, insurance role, and I had become pretty close with these advisors we had on base. And that was one of their jobs, was pretty much a financial advisor, but for all the military and their dependents on base. And so they would provide all the financial guidance, insurance guidance, teach us the intro to investments, buying or making big purchases like homes, cars, maximizing the utilization of like credit unions versus banks, all that type of good stuff.
Okay.
And I was like, wait a minute, they told me that I can do this for real, and I seen it for real. So I was like, this is more my speed, with my injuries, I can kind of chill behind the desk, or I can go out and meet my clients, either or. So I was like, that's for me.
Okay.
That was it right there.
Oh, and you've just been on the path ever since.
Ever since.
And what exactly is it that you do? I mean, you explained a lot of it, but what is it that you do every day for your business? So now you're an agency owner. You own a business.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what is it that you do in your business?
So we have several different areas that we work with. We work with business owners to help them with their exit strategies, right? So their key employee planning, and what's it going to look like for them to actually retire and take their assets out of the business and use that to go ahead and retire comfortably, right? I work with a lot of special needs families as well. I'm a chartered special needs consultant, so my daughter was born with a disability, and so I enjoy helping families plan for the care of their loved one if they're not around. So life care plan, if you will.
Okay.
And then, your traditional retirement planning, with your seniors 65 and above, or those, getting ready, seasoned professionals, if you will, it's 40 and above that are making that transition and starting to get prepared for retirement. So.
Okay. And so you go to the job fair, you meet the person, somebody's got to, I'm assuming, take you on and mentor you or show you the ropes and all of that. And did you know just right up, you're like, yeah, I'm going to build this giant business and do all these amazing things? Or how did you start? How did you even begin? Because me as a young professional, or anybody coming, that's a big transition to go from being told what to do every minute of every day in the Marine Corps to here you have all this freedom, do what you want with it. And so how did you do the two?
Well, my grit gene kicked in.
That's
what
there you go. Perfect.
Tapped in.
Yeah.
No, I actually, it was actually a train wreck, to be honest. So I applied for a specific financial advisory company, and let's see, I went through their background screening. Thought I was all good. They gave me an offer. I accepted the offer. Then I noticed on their secondary background check, there was some verbiage I hadn't seen before, right? It asked, have you ever had any felony charges, right? Well, I did. So it was from that altercation I spoke of earlier.
Right, charges, not convictions. Because usually applications say, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Yes. And everybody likes to be able, which hopefully one day we'll get rid of. But nonetheless, until then, we'll check the box or not check the box. And this one said charges, not convictions.
That is correct.
Okay.
And so I picked up the phone and I gave him a call and I said, hey, I didn't see this question before, but I was calling to let you know that I did have these charges. So they asked me to produce documentation of everything that had occurred on that specific night. So I had to dig back. At that time, it was like about 13, 14 years. And of course, I'm a resident, here in Texas, reaching back to the Onslow County Courthouse in North Carolina. Of course, everything's high speed there. Getting a police report, getting court documentation of the charges being dropped, all this, and I'm having to pay for it out of my pocket to produce to them, to show them that, you know what, I do in fact have these charges and what the outcome was, right? And
the outcome was not a conviction, obviously.
No, it was not a conviction. Right. It actually said voluntarily dismissed by the district attorney.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. Just want to be super clear.
Absolutely. So producing those documentation, they reviewed it. Took them like another 2 weeks to review it. And mind you, I was supposed to start like 6 weeks. I should have been 6 weeks in by this time. They called me right after I had left another interview for a job I didn't want, but I was still trying to find something because, you know, got to take care of the babies.
Right.
They called me, and immediately they turned this conversation into a one-sided situation where they just told me that I was basically an integrity violator. You know, said that I lied.
Those are big words to somebody like you.
Yeah, somebody who stands on honor, right? You know, my core values are integrity, honor, courage, commitment. You know, so for me, it was a hard pill to swallow for somebody to tell me that, and that wasn't anywhere close to the truth. There's no negativity on my record book, my service record book. Everything is great. It's impeccable. I had combat meritorious promotions. Not everybody has one of those. That's not something that's handed out.
Right.
And so for them to say that to me, that was like, you know, it, again, touched my soul. And so I had to do something about that.
And so what did you do about that?
So I started working at some other firms first. And
because they pulled the job offer, right? Yep, because of the integrity, because you're an integrity violator.
Yes.
That's gross, by the way. Just to say it is gross.
It leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
It does. So they pulled the job offer, and so you went and you got hired at a different firm.
Yes. And
you did not think you were an integrity violator.
Exactly. I was upfront with them like right out the gate because I felt like I felt, you know, discouraged, you know.
Yeah.
Big time. And, you know, when the recruiter called me for this other company, I was like, look, man, I'm just putting it out there. This is what it is. I feel like I can't work in this industry because of that. And he's like, no, man. He's like, just give me the documentation. And I did. And I was on in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, cool. But once I got there, I fell into their game plan of what they wanted me to do and not what really Michael wanted to do. And so what I mean by that is that I joined with the intent of becoming an advisor and being able to do more things than just life insurance, right?
Right.
And so I was stuck because they wanted us to go through this certain, regiment that they had. While I felt that was fine, I felt that I was not getting the teaching, the coaching that I was looking for because I didn't just want to do that one thing.
Okay, so while we're on this topic, can I divert us just a smidge? Because I think one of the things, especially for some of the people that might be listening, like that are younger professionals that are trying to figure out a way to do this entrepreneurial life and maybe are not wanting to and are being coaxed, if you will, by this industry, financial services,
Preach.
Right. And so I have noticed just with all the business people that I have spoken with and consulted with over the years, thousands of people, life insurance seems to be, and insurance in general, but we'll go with just life for right now, seems to be a very aggressive industry in attracting young professionals. And I see really good kids, right? Really good, sharp young kids who genuinely want to tap into that grit gene, that genuinely want to build a business, have big hopes and dreams, and are like, this is my way kind of out of flipping burgers, waiting at tables, working a low-level paying job. And I don't know if I can go as far as to say they prey on these kids and they chew them up and they spit them out. And I want you to talk a little bit about that experience. Was that the experience that you're talking about here?
Yes.
Okay. And how long ago was this?
That was 11 years ago.
And it's still going on.
Absolutely.
It's the way they continue to do things. And so could you give some of those young professionals some advice that are, because it's hard. You're applying online, you're doing the best you can, you want to have a career path of and then somebody offers you this job. because they'll offer it to everybody.
Yep.
And I want you to give them advice on what they should ask, what they should be thinking of, why that is or isn't a good, option in terms of starting a career path, and help those kids out.
So first thing I would do is I would do research on the company, right? What are you looking for? You're looking to see what their core competencies are, really. Is it a life insurance company you're applying to join, right? If you want to be a financial advisor, is it a life insurance company that you're applying for, right? Is it a broker dealer? What exactly do they have to offer their clients, right? Mm-hmm. Then you want to take it a step further, and if you're talking to a recruiter, like, what does the career path look like? What does that look like? Is it you're going to be a junior advisor? Are you just going to be a life agent or a financial service rep? Because that's usually what the title is, right? Mm-hmm. And if I am going to do that first, how do I go to the second phase of becoming a financial advisor? Do we have some kind of training platform that's going to help me to become that? Am I just going to be doing joint work with senior advisors? Because that's the one that it's often utilized.
Joint work being like, I'm basically an appointment setter, and then the senior advisor like sells the policies or does the thing, right?
He's the closer. Yes.
He's the closer. I'm the appointment setter. They're the closer, but that's how and this is not a good model, you're saying?
In most cases, no.
Okay.
Because let's just say I'm the senior advisor, you're the junior advisor, if you will. Uh-huh. What happens if you leave? Those just became all my clients, right?
Oh, okay.
While before they were like 50-50, now they're just all my clients, right? So
I see.
Any commissions you didn't absorb, now they're coming to me, and I don't have to do anything anymore, right?
Okay.
And now I can call them back and cross sell them some more, and I did absolutely nothing but step in and close a deal for you, mm-hmm. right? So you do have some models that way that aren't very effective, but then there are some other ways that are kind of effective, right?
Such as?
In that same type of model, but they're not getting like half of the business, right? Their thing is that you are actually getting mentored, right? So you may be a junior advisor that does a portion of the case planning, right? With mm-hmm. only the things you know how to do, right? And then the other advisor may offer his skill set to do some extension of the planning.
Okay.
Right?
So then help them understand, what is, in your opinion, the best process, most ideally suited to actually creating a career path for some of these younger professionals, right? Like, they apply to a firm. From that point, like, what is the position called? What are the things that they need? Like, does it have a mentor program? I mean, is it a structured agenda? Like, can you explain what they should expect to see if they're actually on the right path for a good career?
So first things first, they, going back to learning the career path for whatever company that they choose, they need to really know what they plan to do with, their licenses. Do they want to be a holistic planner, or do they just want to be an asset manager, right? So
what's the difference?
The asset manager is just going to, pretty much manage the investments, right?
Okay. You give me money, I buy stocks for you, and I just make sure that they don't.
Right.
They just make money.
Taking a percentage of the cut to grow your wealth, right?
Okay.
A holistic planner is going to work with, they may do some of your insurance planning to coincide with your investments as well, to make sure that they're taking care of any kind of possible holes in your ship, right? So they're doing the risk management piece and the wealth management growth, right? Okay. And so that's what somebody really needs to understand, how that works and which way they want to go with it, mm-hmm. right? And then as far as excelling there, the companies that are out there, I would say that are, well, I wouldn't want to recommend any companies, but I think if you want to be holistic, it's good to start with a life insurance company, because you're going to learn a lot from the insurance products first, right? Okay. And then, after you get your fiduciary responsibilities, get your licensure, then, getting the risk or the investment side, the wealth management side, understanding that and how they marry together, I think that makes you just a real tool, a real resource for families. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So that was the path that you went on, right?
Yes.
And what have you done with it so far, or what have you built?
Upon learning at two different companies like that, that's when I decided to go solo. It was time for me to go ahead and jump ship and do Michael's thing, right? Because I learned some valuable resources there. And so now I'm able to, service the niches or the demographics that I want to serve, right? Because I got the specific skill sets for those niches. And so now I've been an owner for about 6 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. I mean, that's so talk to me about when you decided to take that leap. Was that an easy decision?
No.
I want to be really clear to everybody who listens, and anybody who's even considering it, has that tickle, that itch, that thing. I mean, would you describe it that way? That just won't stop bothering you, that you're like, I should do this. I should do this.
So it was a tickle, an itch, but then there was also like a push me off the cliff type moment.
I had one of those too.
Yeah, it was like a push off the cliff type moment. And so what that was is I was doing some joint work with someone, a peer, and I had set up a speaking engagement for us. Post that it was somebody who came to our speaking engagement. Now I set all of it up, right? I did all the legwork. We start working with this prospect, and all of a sudden I wasn't aware that I had been cut out of all the communication.
Oh.
I was like, what? I had seen some correspondence about meeting, but there was other correspondence that I was completely cut out of. And when I asked about it, business had already been submitted, right? Now, this wasn't, pennies, right?
Right.
We're talking about 80 grand worth of commission.
Oh.
Right? I only seen 10 of that because I was cut out of it and the business had already been submitted. I couldn't do anything. I was told to go to the managing partner and speak to him about it. But I didn't want to talk. I wanted to whip ass. Right? So
you're like, oh, you don't want to pay me? Watch me.
Yeah.
Watch this. Watch.
Yeah, I was going to say watch me whip his ass. But,
right.
But, I had a moment. I just had the Marine in me wanted to go, do something.
Right.
But then I had to think about my children, and that's not a good idea for dad to be doing stuff like that. And I don't need to be putting myself in any other legal situation.
Right.
I need to set the proper example. And that's when the watch me moment came. That what, I need to go do this for myself. Right. I can definitely cut out some of the middleman and experience a whole lot more of what I want to, put my name on it, my brand, and enjoy what I'm doing to take care of people. Right.
Okay.
And not selling somebody else's brand. So.
And when you took that leap and went out on your own, did you know everything you were supposed to know about setting up an LLC and starting a business and all of the taxes, like all of the things? Did you know all the things?
No, absolutely not. I started leaning on different resources I had for sure, taking advantage of some of my veterans benefits as well. So at the time, registering your business, I was able to do that absolutely free because of one of the veterans benefits for the state. So knocked that out real quick.
Nice.
I took advantage of, at the time, Lone Star had the Small Business Development Center out on the north side. So I took advantage of reaching out to some of the advisors there as well because I was also in grad school at the time. So I needed one of them for my capstone project. We were working on a small business there as well, and I was the financial guy for that. So that they helped me twofold on my project as well as start my own business. So.
That's how convenient and helpful.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, I have found over lately that like people either don't know that there are resources around them, and I'm going to be honest and to even say like my sister posted something, she was looking for a job, right? I know it's hard to apply online. I've never had to in a really long time because I network for a living. So if I need a job, I just ask the people around me if they know somebody hiring. It's always not what you know, it's who you know. Facts. You and I know that, but apparently the vast majority of the world doesn't know that. And so when she posted on LinkedIn that she was looking for a new opportunity and was asking for advice, I jumped on there about breaking into a new industry, right? Like that there's comparable skill sets, but not in that industry, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, find the person that that's closest to that industry and ask them who they know to like educate, to break into it. And I don't even know if she did it or not, but like it's fascinating to me that people don't know, because again, my experience is in networking and so is yours. if you just ask the people around you for a step in the right direction, they may not have the answer, but they might know somebody who does, right? And if you just, like, you didn't know about the small business school in the North Side, like, you ask somebody and they're like, oh yeah, there's this thing and you should go check it out. But like, I think that sharing with more people in our networks and in our lives about what we're up to, the more resources we might have access to.
Agreed, 110%. And I would say that, like you said, for me, it was just asking questions and getting pointed in the right direction. So, where some of my veteran, connections, as well as business leaders in the community.
Right. I heard on somebody's podcast, I'm sure that right, you ask find the most successful person that you know and ask them, right, like any question that you can think of, and like that's what you're supposed to do. You are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right?
Say that.
Because you're doing, we'll get there, but so you started your business. I always want to reiterate that, like, you didn't know everything.
No, I didn't.
And you did it anyway.
Yep.
And people don't have to know everything they don't even have to know, like, what registering a business is, right? If that's what it's called Google. If you want to know something, just freaking Google it. So, like, this is where I'm trying to figure out if this grit gene really does make a difference in people's ability to be successful. Because for you and I don't know, so I'm going to go to Google, I'll get the answer, and then that'll take me to the next step in the process, right?
Right.
What do you think is keeping people from even Googling?
The fact that they don't have the grit gene.
You think so?
I really don't know. I think a lot of people are scared. I think that's really what it is that they're hesitant. There's a fear factor involved. They're worried about losing certain things. Like, I've asked another person in my industry, how come they haven't started their own agency? They've been working at State Farm for quite some time, and they work for someone else. And I'm just like, well, why won't you do it yourself? Well, it was the fact that they have stability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that stability is great, but you could probably do 10 times better if you were by yourself, right?
I heard that I was talking to somebody the other day, and they had said that was the number one reason people don't, is the stability of the paycheck, right? And I'm here for that. It's taken me 10 years to get off of that stability, but at what cost, right? Like, what do you sacrifice? As long as you're aware of what the cost is, and for a lot of that, stability is only good as long as the business owner wants to stay open. That State Farm agent is going to retire at some point in time, sell their book of business, and that person may or may not continue to have a job, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. In my case, the giant corporation decided that they no longer needed our services, right?
Right.
And they're like, "Have a nice day."
Right. So as you were speaking, you made me think of this African proverb. It says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. And if you want to go far, take someone with you. And I think that's one of the most important things, going back to your previous comment about, knowing the resources or knowing somebody to ask a question. When you do take somebody with you, you're able to do so much more, right? Or just having that person to bounce ideas off of, or whatever, just to give you that extra help, right? And I think that's another thing that people aren't thinking about when they have stability. They don't think that they can rely on others to help them out. So
right. And you and I are, like I said, are professional networkers. How much of your professional networking, and for those listening that don't understand, there is structured networking out there where people are planning events where random strangers, like, get together in a bar and don't even know each other, but have no problem walking up to each other and chit-chatting.
Or stick a card in somebody's face.
Or try to sell you something.
Right.
But we do it for a living. Like, that's how, if you want to meet random people to potentially sell your product or service to, that's one way to do it. The other options are like cold calling, knocking on doors.
Yeah, that.
That's your industry. That's your jam. You guys love to door knock.
I don't.
My industry, we love to cold call, and I don't care how long I've been in business. I always sound like it's my first day on the job. It's terrible. I hate it so much.
Never been a fan of cold calling. Have I done it? Absolutely. Do I sound like it's my first day when I do it? Probably. Yeah. I would much rather have a warm intro, or at least meet you in person in a networking environment, shake hands, introduce myself.
Right.
Let's talk about how the Texans played this weekend, or you Cowboy fans out there.
They won against the Skins yesterday.
They did. I'm a Cowboys fan, but I just have to say it low.
I know your demographic, know your audience,
I don't want
and the
anybody
people you want to
judging
work
me.
with.
Yeah.
All right, but back to my point is that if once aside from like the opportunity of getting business from like these ribbon cuttings and social events and things like that, I just the amount of resources that I have access to, or that you have access to do these types of things, right? To be able to ask these kinds of questions, like the amount of education I receive from hanging out with other professionals in a professional networking environment is, I don't even know. It's changed everything about life, I think. And that's another place that you can get resources, is a network. Or your professional network, if you will.
Yes, I lean on my other professionals in my network all the time, just to find out, other information, So like if I'm working with clients on their estate plan, I know I have an attorney. I can just pick up the phone and, call and ask questions if I need to. So it definitely comes in clutch, when I'm doing work or just in my personal life.
And so on that note, if we've got people who are listening that are not the younger professionals, but more likely the ones who maybe business owners that are just trying to figure out how to get to the next level of their life, or maybe even wanting to retire, right? Like, and if that's their plan, their exit strategy, how do they leverage their network in order to be set up for success, to be able to maybe even talk to you at some point in time about, how do I get out of this? I got to figure out what my exit strategy is.
Oh man, they lean into like the CPA relationship, right? Mm-hmm. That's always really good because CPAs can introduce them to somebody like myself, or business broker, right? If they're looking to sell their business, right, they definitely want to get a valuation of it and think about their exit strategy, right? Those are two other people that I work with hand in hand all the time, right? I'd say another one, if they're just talking to their employees, about exiting, that's always a good time to start to think forward, right? If I know that you're one of my key employees, Emily, and you're bringing in a good portion of my funds, or I can't do business without you, I need to create a plan around that, right?
Right.
I need to talk to my business attorney, and we need to think about what would happen if tomorrow I didn't come in. How are you and this business going to survive? How's that going to impact my family? And really reaching out to folks in your network that can help you like that.
I bet as you're telling me that, I'm trying to think of how a business owner, with all the people I've consulted with, how they would kind of respond to that advice. And my gut reaction was like, oh God, I can't tell my employees, they'll leave me because they know that I'm going out of business or whatever. Mm-hmm. And how like fearful, and there's lots of other things involved, right? Like not running my business anymore, and am I really wanting to retire, and those types of things. But like being fearful of wanting to like share that or be that vulnerable with your employees because you don't know, you can't control what they do once they know that information, right? So how would you advise them in some way?
Well, when I speak employees, I'm talking about, like I said, key employee, or
right.
your execs, your leadership team, those folks, not all of your employees, so to speak, because these are the people that obviously is going to have a huge impact on them. But if you want to exit the company, they may want to buy the company from you, right? They may want to keep the company going. So this is why you're sharing this information, so everybody can have an understand or see the big picture of what's coming forward.
Right. And on the flip side of that, if you're one of those employees who's ready to take on that role, because were just talking at coffee the other day about, what did you call it? The generational wealth transfer.
Yeah, the generational wealth transfer, yeah.
Yes. And so we've got all these boomers that are ready to exit their business and are ready to retire and have these businesses, and they are either going to get bought up by bigger corporations,
right,
or potentially these key employees, right, have, without any money whatsoever, can structure deals in order to buy out and do sweat equity and ownership in the business that way.
Absolutely. They can create a plan to buy the business from the business owner, over a certain amount of time. So that way the business owner does have a strategy to exit, and this key employee or other exec has the opportunity with their shares and so forth to buy out a portion of the business or all of the business, right? Mm-hmm. Depending on if there's multiple people that are going to become owners.
Right. So, and would you be personally involved in kind of helping to structure this wealth transfer or this business buyout sort of situation?
Absolutely. With the business attorney. Yep, absolutely.
The two of you together would kind of help them figure it out.
Absolutely. That'd be our role.
All right. So with that, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today, and I really appreciate you coming, because this just makes it so much more comfortable that I can have a chat with my friend. So thanks for helping me work
Man, it's
through
been
that.
an honor. I've had a great time.
Good. And so any last piece of advice for anybody who would be listening that you want to give them about potential, like trying, if they are, just think of the person that's stuck where they are and they think that they're going to flip burgers forever or serve tables forever or be an employee at a firm forever. What is the thing that you would tell them?
I tell them to dig deep. First, what are their goals, right? Do they have any goals or plans ahead, right? Go ahead and lay that out, and then look at, how are you going to go ahead and achieve those, right? What are actually tactical things that you can do to put yourself in position to achieve those goals, right? So we're not just aimlessly throwing darts at the dartboard, right? We're thinking about action steps we can take to start to move forward, right? Like I knew that I wanted to get my chartered special needs consultant designation, right? In order for me to do that, I can't just enroll in school, right? I got to make sure that I'm going to those classes and taking the exams in order for me to do that, right? Just putting it on the calendar doesn't mean anything. I still got to take action, right?
So on that, being that you were at my networking meeting last month, the question I want to ask you is, when we talk about setting goals, the advice is always, yes, set goals and all of that. Mm-hmm. What did I teach you guys last week or last month about goals? You can't just have the goal. You got to have
a why.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So why did you want to get a special needs designation?
Well, I look at my daughter. I seen a lot of the things I had to personally go through and endure as a special needs parent, right? And I understood that a lot of the benefits I had while I was in the military that, regular families don't have on the outside, right? Or if they do, they don't know the resources that are involved in that. And so I was like, you know what? I want to be able to give back, to this same people, right? To help them, and so they're not, as lost as I was having to figure it out. So right. That ultimately was what compelled me to want to do this. Still dealing with my daughter's medical issues as she's transitioning, becoming an adult right now. But that was ultimately what drove me to want to do that.
And not just to want to do it, but that's what drove you to class. That's what drove you to put it on the calendar.
Absolutely.
That's what drove you to accomplish and get that designation.
Yes, ma'am.
So with your advice, I'm going to couple it with mine, which is understand the why. Understand why it is that you want to do these things, whether it's not serve tables anymore or not be an employee anymore or whatever the next goal is. Understand what the goal is and why it is that you want to accomplish it, and that will help drive you in that way. So thank you again, Michael, for coming, and
sure.
Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.